So let's talk about the US-China rivalry. Today we're digging into a really interesting story, one that argues the US trade war didn't just hurt China, it accidentally forced it to become a tech superpower. How in the world did that happen? Well, let's break it down. And it all kicks off with this quote. Our source puts it bluntly, it was a direct punch to China's face. This wasn't just about economics, this was personal. This was a challenge.
So let's talk about that punch to the face. What did it look like, and what did it spark inside China?
And wow, did things escalate fast? You can see it right here on this timeline. 2018, the first tariffs hit. By 2022, we're talking about sanctions that cut China off from critical semiconductor tech. The argument here is that first move in 2018, well, it was more than just a trade dispute. It was a massive wake-up call for Beijing.
And that's the key, right? This was the moment China had to face a pretty terrifying reality. Its incredible growth, its whole economic miracle, was built on a foundation of foreign technology. Semiconductors, software, you name it. And suddenly they realized that foundation could be pulled out from under them at any time.
So, you have this trade spat, but how did it morph into an all-out tech war?
Well, this is where our source makes a really important distinction. You might think things would cool down with a new president, right? But the argument here is the exact opposite happened. The new administration didn't just continue the fight, it escalated it, turning it from a broad trade war into a laser-focused tech war.
And this was the new arsenal. I mean, look at this list. We're talking sanctions on huge companies like Huawei, blocking access to advanced chips, even pressuring allies to get on board. This wasn't about making goods more expensive anymore. This was a direct assault designed to cripple China's ability to innovate and build its own advanced tech.
And the ASML sanctions, wow, our source points to this as the knockout blow. See, ASML makes these incredibly complex machines. They're absolutely essential for making cutting-edge computer chips. The sanctions didn't just stop China from buying new ones, they cut off the service and parts for the machines they already had. Imagine buying a car and then being told you can never get it repaired. It basically froze their ability to move forward.
Okay, so China's back is against the wall. What do? Well, according to this narrative, they do something completely radical, something most people outside of China thought was just unthinkable.
The source puts it this way, China hit the gym. Instead of folding, they decided to get stronger. They basically accepted, okay, this is the new reality. We can't rely on anyone else. And so they started this massive, painful process of restructuring their entire economy for the long haul.
And this brings us to what is probably the most shocking part of this whole narrative. The argument is that China deliberately popped its own real estate bubble. Think about that for a second. For decades, their entire economy was fueled by property. And this theory says the government just turned off the money tap. They ordered banks to stop lending, let the market crash, all so they could take that capital and pour it into something else, the tech war.
So you had these two completely different stories playing out. The Western media was looking at the collapsing property market and saying, see, China's economy is about to implode. But according to our source, that wasn't a sign of collapse. It was a strategy, a painful, calculated pivot, a controlled demolition to reroute money from building apartments to building the future.
And this chart really shows you that shift in action. All that money that was flooding into real estate, the story goes, it was deliberately rerouted away from property and straight into these high-tech sectors. We're talking AI, robotics, clean energy, the whole shebang.
Okay, so after all that pain and restructuring, what does the new China look like? Well, the source jumps ahead to a hypothetical 2025 to show us. And this China isn't just surviving, it's ready to fight back.
So, in this 2025 scenario, the US rolls out even more tariffs, this time hitting allies, not just China. But here's the twist. China isn't just taking the hits anymore. They've spent years preparing for this. They're no longer on the defensive, and now they have their own weapons to use.
And their new weapon? Something called rare earth materials. Now, you might not have heard of them, but they are in everything. Your phone, your computer, advanced military gear, pretty much any piece of high-tech equipment needs these things to work.
And here's the kicker. Look at this chart. The US was getting the vast majority of these absolutely critical materials from China. That's not just a trade imbalance, that's a massive strategic vulnerability, a huge Achilles heel.
And then, according to this narrative, China played its trump card. It sanctioned the export of rare earths to the US. Just like that, the tables were turned. China was now using America's own playbook and its own dependency against it. A pretty powerful way to show who now had the leverage, right? So, what's the end game in all of this?
how does this tech war actually end? Our source wraps things up by taking us to a final, symbolic showdown.
The setting is a hypothetical APEC summit in October 2025, and this table basically lays out the final score. On one side, you have the US, which started this whole thing to contain China, now being forced to admit that the tech war is lost. And on the other, you have China, once vulnerable and dependent, now standing as a self-sufficient tech giant.
And really, this is the core of the story we're exploring today. The transformation is just massive. China went from being the world's low-cost factory to a high-tech powerhouse in its own right. The very pressure that was designed to contain them, according to this argument, is what forced them to become a true competitor.
And the source's final verdict is just as bold as its opening line. The US may have initiated the trade wars, but in the end, China emerged as the victor in the tech wars. A pretty stunning conclusion, right? That the US basically lost the war it started?
And that leaves us with this final, really provocative question from our source. The whole thing reframes the debate completely. It suggests the question isn't if China will catch up to the US anymore. The race might already be over. The real question now is, how do these two superpowers learn to live with each other in this brand